So are your hearts open yet? Yes. Feeling that opening of the heart? Because I hope so. This whole month has been about living wholeheartedly. So how perfect was that song to segue into this talk today and for the whole month. And also loving the idea that originated in native cultures that the whole heart has 4 chambers. And we've been exploring the 4 chambers all month. And to have those chambers opened helps us to sustain good health, spiritual health, and good emotional health. So the 4-chambered heart is described as open. We discussed that. Full. Today is clear. And next week is powerful. So those are the 4 chambers of the heart that we're exploring. So far we've looked at, I'm going to go over real quick, the open heart, which is a heart that knows itself as love. And when a heart knows itself as love, it extends that love. So the second part of that is extending the love. You can't extend what you don't own, what you don't feel. So being the love. And then we explored last week the full heart. And so that is when it's overflowing with generosity. We feel the generosity. And it's fully engaged in the art of living. The act and art of living a full life when you feel your heart is full. How many of us walk around, I know I did for many years, with our heart closed off, shut down, and not even know it, not even realize it until one day you really want to start to feel this love that you keep hearing about. And you can't feel it. You can get through it, you can fake it, because the heart has been trained to stay closed to protect us. Now is the time to open our hearts and live fully. Cannot live fully with a closed heart. Today we move to the 3rd chamber and of the 4-chambered heart, which is the clarity or the clear heart. A clear, open heart. So what are the qualities and the characteristics of that? A clear heart is willing to forgive. No way around that one. It's always going to come back to forgiveness. A clear heart makes no assumptions. So that leads us then to a heart that is filled with clarity, and it's liberated and free. Liberated and free. And said in a different way, the clear heart is liberated and free because it knows how to forgive and because it doesn't make assumptions, which is really tricky. We're going to be talking about that because that's something we all do. So this morning I want us all to deepen into the idea of getting a clear heart, or exploring what it means to have a clear heart that is liberated and free, by exploring and experiencing the characteristics of a clear heart. Okay? So the clear heart is willing to forgive. It's willing to forgive. And I know in Science of Mind circles, which we are, New Thought Science of Mind, we speak a lot about forgiveness. In fact, most religions have in there forgiveness, right? I mean, there is an abundance of books written on forgiveness. So these are all wonderful words, and they inspire us while we're reading them. But how many of them are we actually putting into action? And I love what Martin Luther King wrote. Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It's a permanent attitude. Isn't that great? When you've done the real deep forgiveness, you find that it's really hard to hold on to. In fact, for me, it's been impossible to hold on to resentment and anger and that whole frustration that comes with closing your heart again. Because once you clear your heart, once you've really done the forgiveness work, which is not so easy, but once you've done it, what a free and liberating gift you have given to yourself. It's been amazing. No matter what people do, I can get mad, but it passes, and there's no resentment left in there. None. So that's opening up the heart and clearing it of anger, of resentment. So to truly embrace having this permanent attitude takes some shift in our perspective. And so this morning I want to suggest two very powerful such shifts. And at first blush, these shifts might sound like big ones. But I pose to you, they are not big when we are aligned with the truth of who we are. And we're all, each and every one of us, created out of love. Whether you believe it or not, that's what I know to be true. So that's what I believe. We are created out of love. We return to love. Some people might not express that love while they're in these forms, but that's because they've closed down their hearts, because they had to protect themselves. So the first shift is seeing things from another person's perspective. And one of the amazing people who helped me with this idea tremendously was Greg Bauer. He's the author of many books, but the one that stuck out was Real Love. Now he was at, a few years ago, he was at our ANTN, A-N-T-N, affiliated New Thought Association Network, and he was the keynote speaker, and he did all these breakout sessions, and I couldn't get enough of this man. This man is amazing, what he did. But in his book, Real Love, he gives this profound analogy. So imagine, he writes, that you are having a most pleasant afternoon. You're poolside brunch along with one of your very good friends at your favorite resort hotel. Got that? The setting is gorgeous. The food is exquisite. And the company is all that you could ask for. As you are midway through this glorious experience, someone from the pool splashes your shoes. I don't know about you, but I like my shoes. Even if I wear flip-flops to the pool, those are good flip-flops I got on my feet, okay? And I don't like getting water on them. But anyway, just imagine. You can't see who it is because there's lounge chairs between you and the pool. But you're a little bit annoyed at getting your shoes a little wet. But you go on with your wonderful time. This is a glorious day. You're having a great day. Then a bigger splash from the pool and drenches your shoes. Immediately following that is a wave of water that makes you wet. Now, I don't like to get wet. I don't even go in pools. I don't like to be wet unless I'm in a shower. So, okay, so this beautiful, idyllic day now, getting spoiled, suddenly your couldn't be better experience is ruined. And you are very, very annoyed with this inconsiderate buffoon. I love that word, buffoon. Who has drenched you? I never use it. So this, I'm going to start using it. All right, but this would really tick you off, right? Now you're really, like, upset. So you stand up to walk to the edge of the pool to give this person a piece of your mind. And when you see over the lounge chairs to the man in the pool, you realize that he's not frolicking and having a great time. In fact, he is drowning and trying to save himself. Get in touch with your emotions then. That shift right then and there. Is there any place in you that needs to work on forgiveness? I'm constantly working on it. Constantly. It's a constant thing. And you realize that this person wasn't trying to ruin your day, simply trying to save himself. And so the truth, which is the lowercase t, which means it's not of divinity, is that every act of unkindness, hurt, fear, anger from others they are drowning in their own sorrow, in their own pain. People drown in their pain. They do. And if the person's does to another is done because the perpetrator is drowning in his own pain and fear and confusion and trying to save themselves, then where in our heart can we have some kind of compassion? We don't know what other people are going through ever. We think we do. We do not. And that's the second part, the assumption part. We do not know. Longfellow once wrote, "If we could read the secret history of our enemies, we would find in each person's story enough suffering and sorrow there to disarm all hostilities." That is a shift in perspective. That's the first part of what I'm talking about, shifting our perspective. And I am proposing this morning, to be willing and to see things from another person's perspective. It's not the same as ours. To have a clear heart, we must be able to make these shifts. You feel the feeling, we're going to get into radical forgiveness, you feel the feeling, but then you move on and you get to the bottom of what it really is. When the heart is congested with anger, with resentment, and with that fear, it cannot be open. It cannot be clear then. You cannot have a clear heart if it's congested all of the time with anger. It's an awful feeling. I lived with it for 45 years of my life. Hate. It's the worst enemy that you could have for yourself, is to be in a place of hate, true hate. But the amazing thing is, once you've truly done the forgiveness work and really, really gotten to a place where you can actually see compassion for the other person, then everything shifts. The hate, it really becomes an illusion because it's not real. It's something that we have taught ourselves to survive, mostly our childhood. And to survive it, we've had to shut ourselves down and hate the person that we felt was our perpetrator. But that person is drowning in their own darkness. They're drowning in their own anger. So, compassion, that's again, the compassion. Because, boy, I sure wouldn't want to live the rest of the second half of my life the way that person lived their whole life. And I'm talking about a parent. I just wouldn't want to live in that darkness. So when we have that compassion that, wow, the person acted that way because they are living their life in fear and in real darkness. There's no light there's no clarity of the heart. So we're going to move into the second shift. And this is about seeing things from the other person's perspective. Okay? But no, that's all the first shift. But this one is, rather than seeing the person from a different perspective, let's try to see them from their perspective. I want to say that one again. The second shift isn't about seeing things from another person's perspective, but rather about seeing the other person from a different perspective. And that's what is called radical forgiveness, which I studied with Colin Tipping, as most of you know, and I brought it kind of to this area in 2002, and I'm still teaching it. Last year we had an absolute full class because it's so necessary. I can't do it enough. And I can't teach it enough, I can't study it enough. Because in radical forgiveness, which is a terrific work if you're not familiar with it, he has a comprehensive worksheet that you can download on the computer, radicalforgiveness.com, that will turn your story completely around. It turns the story, I know Carol's been with me since the beginning with that. Turn your story completely around where you can take some kind of ownership for it, where you can see from a different viewpoint. It's amazing. We've seen miracles happen from that class. We even had two people get a relationship together and get married from that class. And a lot of you know Carrie Christensen and Don McKinney, who's no longer with us. But they worked through their issues together in that class, and They were together after that class was over. That was a good manifestation. But it was through the forgiveness work, their hearts open, were able to connect. It's amazing work. We've seen so many incredible stories that happen when we release the heaviness that unforgiveness brings. So I, like many of you, have been through some horrific, painful situations in my life. Most of us have. That's what we have in common. Most of us have. And when we consciously turn to these spiritual truths of unity, of oneness, of forgiveness, then our whole lives truly are changed, because we are empowered to consciously choose something other than anger, fear, and resentment. And we can do the worksheet, or we can just jump into, what is this experience teaching me? Because every experience is the truth. You hear it, but it is the truth. Ask for the lesson. It will be revealed to you always, always. So back to the person. This is the type of person that the Dalai Lama calls a sacred friend. Person who you think perpetrated something against you is a sacred friend. Someone who helps you grow your heart. When your heart is open and ready for it, it helps you to grow it. And what is interesting here is that when we have these two shifts in perspective, truly, deeply, genuinely have them, when we see from the other person's perspective, and when we see the other person from a different perspective, there really is no need to forgive. You get to that point, you don't need to forgive, because it falls away. It's amazing. It's absolutely life-changing. It truly is. Because when you don't hold that energy of resentment, you're open to living life more fully. And it won't stick. It won't stick. You can't stay angry. I can't. I can stay angry for what? A couple of hours? Maybe a day. And so that moves us. I think I was angry the other night for a good 5 hours. I didn't say anything, but I could feel my heart, and that's where I feel it, in the heart. I don't like the feeling, but sometimes you just can't make it go away. You can't will it, like, I don't like this, go away. No, it's got to be resolved. It's got to be resolved within you. It's got to be resolved. And you're going to find out in the second part. Because the second part of this clear heart is not to make assumptions. And those of you who have read Don Miguel Ruiz's book, another book I've been teaching for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, with the 4 Agreements. This book changes lives, changes lives. And the third agreement is never make assumptions. That's the third one. Assumptions lead us astray. So I'll give you an example. This is an ad that appeared in the Atlanta Journal. Single black female seeks male companionship, ethnicity not important. I am very good-looking girl who loves to play. I love long walks in the woods, camping, and fishing trips, and cozy winters by the fireplace.
I'm sold.
Lovingly, I adore lovingly prepared dinners which will have me eating out of your hands. I'll be at the front door when you get home, dressed in what nature gave me. Kiss me and I'm yours. Call 782-9876 and ask for Daisy. And this is really actually happening. would you believe that over 150 men called that number? And they were quite surprised when they found themselves talking to the Humane Society about a black Labrador Retriever puppy. So, it's assumptions, do we not? We are, and I say this, give me a minute. I gotta tell you, we make these, we're all insane. Every single one of us is truly insane. Some more than others. And it's really, medication won't help this insanity. It will not help it. Because we make up stories about people. We make up stories about people that walking down the street. We have this whole scenario, I do anyway, this whole scenario going on. This whole thing going on. And the thing is, then we believe it. We make up something, we assume that is absolutely correct, then we believe it as small t truth. There are so many things that our minds cannot explain, and we like answers to everything. Do we not? Yes. We gotta have an answer to everything. Everything, you fill in the gaps. It's gotta have an answer. So instead of asking questions when we don't know something, we fill those gaps with our assumptions. We have, each and every one of us, a gift to have an imagination, but this also can be a curse at times when we are imagining the worst. So we have powerful imaginations, and we start to all imagine all kinds of ideas and stories. We start imagining what other people are doing. And you know, if someone you loved is not in at the right time, you know what your mind goes to, like 70 different scenarios of what's going on, when most of the time none of it is absolutely true, but we believe it's true. So what you're thinking and what people are saying about us, we imagine. We imagine that they are actually talking about us. We imagine all kinds of things. And we dream these all up in our imagination, but we haven't asked the questions. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe that they are the truth, and we invent those stories to sustain that in our minds, and we believe them. We believe them. We assume that we're right about something. Something to the point that we will damage our relationships and our friendships. You know, people that think that they are always right, that they are right. They can only they know how to do the right way of doing something. That only they know that. So they are imagining all of this, and they will destroy friendships and relationships because that need to be right is so prevalent within them. And you know, you got to turn to compassion, because what a way to live your life. Most of the time I'm wrong. I am. Most of the time I think I know something, and it turns up and I don't know. I can't curse up here, but I don't know anything. I don't know. Making assumptions of relationships leads to a lot of difficulties and a lot of misunderstandings with people that we supposedly love. So often we make the assumption that our partners know what we think. And that we don't have to say what we want, because they know what I'm thinking. Well, they should just come in and do all that, right? How's that working? We assume that they're going to do what we want because they know us so well. And if they don't do that, we assume that they should do it, and we get angry, and we get hurt, and we get upset because they didn't do what we think that they know that they should do about it. This is how complicated we are. In the 4 Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz writes this: the way to keep yourself from making assumptions is to ask questions. Make sure the communication is clear. If you don't understand, ask, he says. Have the courage to ask questions until you are as clear as you can be. Once you hear the answer, you will not have to make assumptions because you will know the truth. This is the path to personal freedom, he tells us. And that's on page 76 of his book. Ruiz suggests that that by making this one agreement a habit, that we completely shift and change our whole entire lives. And I would say he absolutely is true. But again, try not to make assumptions about something. Practice it. Be conscious of it, because most of the stuff we're making up. And Ruiz also says that once you recover all the energy that you invested in making assumptions, you can use that energy to create a new dream, a new heaven on earth. I love the way he writes. I just love it. And it's really quite liberating. It's very freeing. And there we have it. A clear heart. A clear heart is liberated and free. And we know what, I just explained what we meant by free. Free of all resentment, anger, all that congestion. And is willing to forgive. And Colin Tippin tells us, you just have to be a little willing. That's all you need. A little bit, that crack. It's like a dam, a little willing. And then making no assumptions. And if you at the beginning of this talk, I said we're going to have a clear heart, and we're going to move into a little exercise right here. And you don't have to get up from your chairs, which is nice. So let's all just take a deep breath together. Take another deep breath, because we're releasing a lot of energy here today.